This video is going to be about paternity testing. So another hot and important topic. Every topic that we discuss here is important, but this is especially important to those unwed fathers. And so we have a great video for you today. If you are an unwed father or you know of one, or maybe you are related to one, this would be a great video for you to share. As always, if the video speaks to you, feel free to like, feel free to share, and always, of course, feel free to follow us. My name is Genghis Shakhan. I am the managing attorney here at Shakhan and Wilkerson Law Firm. We are a boutique law firm, two attorneys. We are small on purpose. It gives us an opportunity to better serve our clients. And with us, our clients are not numbers. And I say us because it is myself as well as my partner, the esteemed Chelsea Wilkerson. Okay. And so we make up the law firm, a tandem of attorneys, Shakhan and Wilkerson Law Firm. So while we're discussing the law firm, why don't we go ahead and get the disclaimer out the way? This video is for educational purposes only. Okay. And so by watching this video, it does not establish an attorney-client relationship with you and myself as managing partner at Shakhan and Wilkerson Law Firm, or with you and the law firm of Shakhan and Wilkerson Law. Okay. But nevertheless, we do thank you for watching. Okay. That being said, today's topic, as I mentioned, is a good one. It's one that every unwed father should pay close attention to. And whether you're going through a legitimation, you are in perhaps a child support fight, or maybe you're looking to establish some form of custody or visitation. Well, this is going to be an important video for you. Okay. So let's talk and let's go ahead and dive right in really quickly. If you just imagine paying child support, and you've been paying it for years. Let's say you've been paying it for 10 years. You've built a relationship and a rapport with the child, the family, the extended family of the minor child, only to later discover that you are not the biological father. Has that happened? Yes. Does it happen frequently? I'm going to say statistics would suggest that it happens more than it should. Okay. There has been some recent buzz in media about some countries where paternity fraud is fairly rampant. I talked a little bit about Jamaica and Nigeria, and some of the news articles that I recently read, but you don't get a lot of statistics on it. Matter of fact, in some countries, it is unlawful to pursue DNA tests. Okay, and so you do want to take a look at that, because that might be problematic depending on where you're at in the world. All right. So important for you to essentially do some genetic testing if you are an unwed father. So again, imagine being you believed yourself to be the biological father of a minor child, only later to be determined that you are not. All right. And say, or imagine being the biological father and never establishing your legal rights with that minor child, right? And that can happen as well. And so we are discussing paternity testing, its importance, and of course, this video is for unwed fathers out there, or if you're a father, you might just want to listen in just in case. Okay. All right. So what is paternity? Paternity is the difference between biological fatherhood and legal fatherhood. Okay. And so those two things are not always the same. While paternity might establish, and I will say paternity affects and establishes both fathers as well as children. So it matters in Georgia for a myriad of reasons. So let's talk about some of those. It will impact child support. Okay. So if you have gone through the legitimation process, everyone that understands has gone through the legitimation process here in Georgia. Georgia is uniquely different from even some of our neighboring states. You do have to, if you are unwed, and at least within a certain time frame, even after the birth of the child, you can still wed your partner, and of course not need to go through this process. But it is a court process in which the state of Georgia recognizes you as the legal father. Okay. And that again is specific here to the state of Georgia. So it's important. Paternity is important for legitimation purposes. It's also important for child support purposes. If you are a custodial parent attempting to establish a child support obligation, and the non-custodial parent, you might have gone down to the child support agency, and then of course one of their requirements may be, hey, we want to secure paternity testing with the non-custodial father. Okay, so it can happen there as well. The child support agency does its due diligence in attempting to establish paternity between the believed to be biological father and of course the minor child. Okay, so custody, parenting, and visitation, or medical decision making, school records, inheritance records, access to medical history, even things like benefits like Social Security or VA benefits, and insurance. All of these things paternity may touch, okay, and impact. So it's pretty important for fathers to establish that, so that their minor children might be able to take when it comes to, for example, if there is a contested will later down the line, okay, and there might be a dispute as to whether not this child is the biological child of one of the decedents, okay, and so this can establishing paternity can help address that, so that it doesn't become an issue later. So if you are new to essentially our channel, because we discuss legitimation and men's rights all the time, you may or may not know what exactly legitimation is, or you're new to the state of Georgia, or you're just a new father. This all might be a new lexicon. And so let's talk a little bit about what it is here in the state of Georgia and what it means to dads, okay? So the biological father of a child born outside of marriage does not automatically receive full parental rights here in the state of Georgia, okay? Legitimation is a legal process, and I talked a little bit about this a few moments ago, by which an unwed biological father asks the state of Georgia, or the court more specifically, to recognize him as the child's legal father and to address parental rights as well as responsibilities. And what that translates to is essentially we're talking about visitation. Okay, legitimation and paternity are related, all right, but very distinct issues. Okay, so you can establish paternity. Child support agency does this all the time. You can establish paternity, however, you still are not considered the legal father of that minor child because you have not gone through the legitimation process. Two distinct things. Paternity just establishes that you are the biological dad, but you still have no rights. For you to have rights, you must go through this legal process known as legitimation if you and the other non-custodial parent were unwed at the time of your child's birth and you didn't get wed soon thereafter, okay? So why is DNA testing so important? I'm glad that you asked. So it's important for a few reasons, okay? Especially if you're an unwed father, you might want to pay special attention here. Matter of fact, go get your pen and pencil and write some things down. A DNA test can remove uncertainty, and so there's nothing like removing uncertainty. There's nothing like peace of mind. You don't want to get 10 years in. We've represented clients who have been years into paying child support obligation, only to find out that the minor child is not theirs, right? So guess what? Now that you've paid $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 for this child that is not biologically related to you, and then there is another biological father, or there is one biological father out there that should be on the hook for that obligation that you have undertaken. There is the very strong chance and likelihood that you will not be able to recover that money, okay? And so you have just essentially underwrote the cost of raising another man's child, by another person who was biologically related to that child raising their child. So something that you want to be mindful of. You want to protect everyone involved, okay? And so you want to also prevent years of litigation over parentage, because that can happen, right? So folks are still fighting over who the biological father decades or it's a decade later, okay? And that shouldn't happen if you take care of it in a timely manner, in a timely fashion, right? And it just provides legal clarity for long-term legal obligations, are actually imposed. Okay, and so we talked a bit about that and why it's important. It's also important to get one that's scientifically recognized by the courts, because there are a lot of at-home tests, and some of them are not maybe from the companies are less reputable than some of the ones that are actually the courts ask the parties to take, okay, or the child support agencies, the department asks people, or I should say people, to take. All right. So here are some of the risks of not getting tested, and some of the potential consequences actually include paying child support for a child that's not biologically related to yours, as I mentioned earlier, okay, or missing the opportunity to establish your biological rights with your biological child, the emotional trauma that might come with, and this actually happens, that might come with supporting, loving, caring, rearing a child that is not biologically related to you, that you find out at a later date, one that you believed that you were related to, or some family conflict that might rise as a result of that, or years of expensive litigation. Okay, and so that leads me to what I kind of mentioned earlier, the topic of paternity fraud. Okay, and this is a very, 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 very sensitive topic. I should add. Have I said very, very, very sensitive topic? A lot of governments do not like to touch this. A lot of agencies do not like to touch this. And part of my fear is because it may be more prevalent than a lot of folks would like to admit. All right. And so that's one of the reasons why all of our guys that come to us, that are being legitimized, that are going through child support, we make sure that they get tested, right? And if they are adamant and not getting tested, we will have them sign a waiver with our law firm, because we will not be held accountable. We advise all of our guys, you better take yourself down there and get yourself tested and get that child tested. And if the mom is unwilling to bring the child to the testing, we will motion the court to have mom bring that child to a testing center, so that we can establish that you are the biological father with a 99.9% certainty. Okay. And so, because if not, you don't want to go through the legitimation process and find out later on that the child is not yours. Because guess what? Now you are legally on the hook for the child support obligation, and you got to go back through the legal process to change that obligation. Okay. And so it makes sense, if you listen to any of my videos and you recall what my mother, Mary Alice, said regarding issues like this: an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. All right. So if we can if we can address it at the front end, we don't have to try to address it at the back. Right. I'm gonna come off of my soapbox, but so super important. I have a sneaky suspicion that I should say not child support, but paternity fraud is much, much, much more prevalent than some agencies report, than some news media outlets report. And so that's one of the reasons why we strongly encourage dads to make certain that they get tested before going forward with the legitimation. Okay. And so it doesn't happen in all cases. It happens in some cases. I'm going to tell you, though, that one case is too many, right? Where, the dad has been led to believe. And so this can happen intentionally, and then it can happen unintentionally. And again, the numbers out there are very hard to track down, what it looks like in terms of statistically how frequently this happens. All right. So obviously we understand the unintentional part. Everyone just assumed, and of course, no one has complete knowledge, except the mom, right? Mom has probably more knowledge of if there is a possibility there could be another potential candidate for fatherhood, right? In that instance, because she engaged in the sexual conduct, right, with the multiple parties. Dad, what is the saying? Mother's baby, dad's maybe, right? I think it's the saying. I might be wrong about that. At least it was an old saying. I don't know if it's still a saying. Okay, it was an old saying that I heard many years ago. All right, so intentional or unintentional paternity fraud, you be the judge. All right, and then sometimes there's just mistaken assumptions. I guess that happens. And then, memories and timelines sometimes don't add up. Okay. That can happen. But DNA testing cuts through all of that. Okay. So you don't have to, you can take out all the human error with the DNA testing. Super important. All right. All right. So, understanding that paternity fraud exists. I understand that you trust your baby mother. I understand that you guys are soulmates. I understand that no one would ever lead you astray. However, as your counsel, we have to do our due diligence, and our goal is to always protect our clients, even from themselves, even from themselves. Okay, so we were absolutely going to guarantee, well, absolutely make certain that our guys do the testing. Okay, and I'm not going to. I've belabored that. I've stayed there for probably way too long, but I've done it to underscore the importance of testing. Okay, and paternity fraud. All right. So, how common is misattributed paternity? Again, there's hard to find statistics. There were, again, as I mentioned, and there were some headlines about how frequent and how rampant it was in places like Jamaica and places like Nigeria. But it's very challenging to find anything statistics about how often it happens in the United States or how often it happens more specifically in the state of Georgia. So I'm going to lead that to you, and maybe Chat GPT or Claude, or maybe you are a researcher, and maybe you can find those statistics and go ahead and you can post them in the chat. Otherwise, you do want to make certain that, just bear in mind that depending on population study, depending on demographics, depending on geographics, it's just the numbers look very different. Okay, so I would just strongly encourage you to do the research. Mothers can benefit from the testing as well. It eliminates uncertainty and makes sure that the correct father is identified. All right, and that's going to be important for child support, and then of course financial support, just for the duration of raising that child, and reduces future disputes. Okay, children benefit because they actually get to know their biological history, their medical history, their family heritage. Again, that's going to be important that children be able to establish that, right? So now, when should testing be required? Usually this is going to be at the beginning of any kind of illegal action. So if you're going through the legitimation process, all of this stuff happens at the beginning. Child support, same deal. All of this stuff is happening at the beginning. And then, when there's any kind of uncertainty regarding parentage, of course, you can always, do DNA testing, especially now that a lot of it is available over the counter. You can pick it up in local drugstores. You can have it mailed to your house. There are all kinds of options and opportunities to test, both the father as well as the minor child. All right. So sometimes there's something called an acknowledgement of paternity. Some dads will get this signed, or they'll sign the birth certificate and the acknowledgement of paternity. They may do that at the hospital. That still does not establish, it might establish paternity, but again, it doesn't establish any legal rights. Okay. So remember, you have to go through the legitimation process to actually have legal rights, at least here in the state of Georgia. Okay. But you want to make sure that you're not signing legal documents without actually, again, thinking about that paternity testing. Really important that you get that addressed, okay? Because doing an acknowledgement of paternity. If you pass away, if you have assets that are going to be passed along via a will or intestate, then that acknowledgement of paternity is a legal document that, if a child is not biologically related to you, it might give them a pathway to inheriting from you. So it's something that you want to make sure that you addressed and you want to address with an attorney. Okay. Now, if you find out, and we've had clients, we've taken on cases, they find out they are not the biological father, right? That happens it's happened to us with clients who are actually married. It happens to us with clients who have gone through the legitimation process. And they later discovered at a later time that they are not the biological father of the minor children that they have been raising. Okay. You don't have to panic. There is ways to address getting you delegitimized. And of course, that's something that we've handled, previously for other clients. And it's something that we can assist you with as well, if that's your situation. And so if you learn you're the biological father, you may not want to wait, going through that legitimation, go through the legitimation process. Of course, you got to understand that you're going to be on the hook for a child support obligation. But that certainty, you'll have certainty that this is your biological child, and you want to make sure that your biological child has resources available to them and a custodial parent, so that they can have a great life. Okay, as a co-parent, that's what you want as a father. Okay, so some of the mistakes that unwed fathers make, they wait years to legitimate. We see that all the time. We'll get consultations, and when they learn that there's going to be a child support obligation tethered to that legitimation, they're like, oh, I'll do it down the line. And whatever their child support obligation might have been, let's just say in 2019, that number is going to look very, very different in 2026. Okay. Or, you might have been getting along with the custodial parent really well in 2020, but guess what? Now you got a new girlfriend, as a father, and it's touch and go with your relationship with the custodial parent now because of that new romantic interest. Okay. And now you have, some regret because you could have gotten legitimized years ago and you elected not to go forward with that process. So it's a process that we recommend dads jump right into if possible. Okay. So some mistakes also that they make is they refuse to do the paternity testing for a child support agency, or they're missing hearings, or they're relying on verbal agreements. That happens often. It's like, hey, we have an agreement. Or even sometimes people will go so far as to bring on a notary. Hey, we have a signed agreement that, it's toilet paper, right? There's nothing you can do with that. You need a court order, okay? And so for there to be a court order, you're an unwed father, you're gonna have to go through the legitimation process, okay? Or just failing to seek legal advice early on. So the message for fathers is, being a father obviously is more than the biological component. That is the paternity aspect of it. So, of course, being a father means showing up, providing support, building relationships, taking responsibility, accountability, and protecting your rights through the legal process. Of course, if you need an attorney, guess what? We're here for you, okay? You can always reach out to us, and you should consider an attorney if you are unsure whether you're the biological father and you're going through a legitimation process, and you're ready. Of course, we can establish that child support obligation while you go through the legitimation process. We can go ahead, get that DNA testing done. We can knock out all three, right? 3 birds with 1 stone. And at the end of that, get you an order, and get you all squared away and set up to visit with your minor child. But always, if you have questions, well, I should say, if you need an attorney, okay, and you need representation, you are welcome to give us a call at 404-999-9529 or 478-845-1213. We also have resources out there for dads. If you go to our website, there's some books that we have that are available. They are awesome resources. I'll just caution dads, if you just have generic basic questions, those are the resources I would direct you to. If you are ready to move forward, you certainly should reach out to us for representation. You can also hit the link in our bio above to schedule a consultation. We'll be more than happy to chat with you. And if it makes sense that we represent you, that's something else that we can talk about as well. Okay. All right, guys, as always, thank you for joining us for this discussion of paternity. Again, if you are a new father, congratulations. Welcome to fatherhood. We are happy that you're here. And then think very strongly about being legitimized. And then, of course, we will help you establish paternity, help you essentially get access to your legal rights, and help you get access to that minor child. All right, thank you for joining us for this video. If it's been helpful to you, make sure you like, make sure you share the video, and make sure you follow us for everything: family law, child support, child custody, divorce, men's rights, as well as criminal defense. Genghis Shakhan, I'm signing off.